Hi everyone, it's Rachel and Anthony.
Hello.
From Don't Crop Me Now, and it's the end of April. It's the 28th of April 2022, and so we're going to do our monthly plot tour. But before we start the tour, I wanted to give a big thank you to everyone out there that has subscribed to our channel. This month we went over that thing that everyone's aiming for, I guess, for on YouTube, that 1,000 subscribers mark. And to be honest, we never really thought that we were going to get that many people that would be interested in listening to our journey. So thank you so much to those people that have subscribed. And if you've not subscribed, hit that subscribe button and you can continue to follow our journey on our allotments in South Manchester. So this month we are going to start on plot 4. And plot 4 is our main plot. And what we mean by our main plot is it's really the plot that we've had the longest, and it's the main growing area for the majority of our annual vegetable crops. So we're going to start at this end, and here we have some parsnips growing. We did a separate video last month about how we sow and transplant parsnips. And some of these, the ones at the front, are those parsnips that have been transplanted. And at the back, just coming through, because they're quite slow germinators, we have some parsnip seeds that have just starting to germinate. On the back of this bed, we also have some carrot seedlings. And I think in the same video we were talking about the parsnips and our plot tour last month as well, we talked about how the fact that we sowed these carrots quite early really, and we'd put bricks over the top of them, which I know sounds a little bit unusual, but that means that it keeps the moisture in, and these carrot seedlings have got pretty good germination. So as you can see that they are still quite small. They're going to need to be kept moist because those tiny seedlings don't like to dry out, but that should give us a full bed of carrots here that's surrounded by this sort of makeshift frame that we've put over the top. That's really important because around here we suffer terribly with carrot fly, and the covering over the top means that the carrot fly can't get into the crop. Let's have a look at what else we've got growing. This is the garlic, and this garlic was overwintered garlic, so it's not that far from being ready. It should be ready probably around June, and as you can see it's growing really well and it's looking really healthy. Last month we did give this a feed of chicken manure pellets, which is really giving it that up and go for this next month. Just behind here we've got a few multi-sown radish, which actually, if Anthony comes in and zooms in, you can see there's more than one radish at each clump, and they are starting to fill out now. I put these in here really mainly because this area here is going to have the courgettes in, and these courgettes will take up this area, but they can't go out until the last frost, and I didn't really want to waste the space, so I thought I'll put these radish in the middle. We should get a crop of those probably before the courgettes are even in, to be honest, but certainly before the courgettes plants start to increase in size. So it's a good idea. That's a technique called intercropping, and we use that a little bit to make the most of our space on our allotment. If we come this way, just around here we've just got a nice little flower garden, and we do have a pond here that needs a little bit of a topping up, but there are quite a few frogs in there, which is absolutely brilliant. Behind Anthony, the Bramley apple tree is in full bloom really, and it looks really, really beautiful. This is a really productive tree for us, although last year we actually had for the first time ever a poor crop from this because there was a very late frost. But at the moment the forecast is looking quite reasonable, so hopefully it's going to be a really good year for apples on our allotment. Looking behind us, we can see that some of the potatoes are just starting to poke through, and we've got lots of different potatoes growing our allotment. We do grow all of these potatoes in these 30-litre tubs, and we've got a few other videos on our channel that discuss the yields we get and the methods that we use to grow these potatoes as well. Currently over this one there's no frame over the top, but as you'll see when we move on to a couple of the other beds, we have put a support frame, and that's to support the plants as they grow, so when you water them they don't just all flop over. It's always nice to see actually that this lavender is sort of starting to grow again. I really like this idea of having this lavender border on here. It really attracts the bees, it looks really pretty, and it smells absolutely divine. If we look in this bed, we've got a few little broad bean plants. And if Anthony comes in, you can see that these have had a good little nibble around the edge. That's from a pest which is called bean or pea weevil. To be honest, I don't find that it affects that much of the growth of the plants. It's just when they're sort of small and young and tender that the pest likes to have a good go at the crop. Once they start to grow, the upper leaves, for us anyway, always seem to be fine. So it's not something that I particularly worry about, but it may be something, if you've got into growing, that you start to notice on your broad bean plants particularly. They really, really like that. Behind us we have got our Dahlia bed, and I just noticed, I pointed out this to Anthony yesterday, we have the first sprouts of some of the dahlias just starting to pop through. And we grow all our dahlias here in South Manchester by leaving these in the ground. It just works really, really well for us. I've personally found that when I do dig them up, it's probably to do with my inadequate storage methods, but I tend to lose a lot of the tubers. And in here, we can mulch on top of the ground. We rarely get really, 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 really cold weather. And so these tend to survive quite well. So there's a number of different dahlias in here of different types. We do pick these and we put them in vases at home. We also have a little show on our ground and we enter some of those in. And also I just like to have flowers because I think they look pretty and they look nice. This crown actually in the middle here, if you see this one and see the size of this one compared to the others, this is a orange sort of pom-pom type dahlia. It might actually be a decorative dahlia actually. I'm not amazing at my dahlia classifications. It's a really brilliant plant, but it's absolutely massive. And so I'm going to have to, pretty soon, because the plants are starting to grow really, is probably pull out some of the tubers that are probably around this area here, just to thin down the size of this crown, because it will be growing like absolutely out here really in a couple of months. But the other ones, the tubers are smaller, so they should be fine. Let's have a look at the rhubarb. And the rhubarb is not doing too bad here for us today. Probably needs a bit of water, to be honest, because we had a lot of rain earlier, but the last couple of weeks have been a lot drier. We actually dug quite a lot of crowns out of this rhubarb over the winter. Firstly, to force a few crowns and to also give a few crowns away, and to transplant some crowns into a communal fruit area that we've been building on this side of our allotment ground. So it's not looking as big and lush at this time as it normally does. But I'm not going to worry about that because it's an absolute beast of a plant, and it's if anything, it's just about impossible to kill. This bed has been in probably at 16 or 17 years at least, so it will come back with a vengeance for late spring, I am sure. So partly in front of me and behind me here, we have an asparagus bed. So this part of the bed was actually planted 3 years ago. So this is the third season. So we should be able to start cropping from this bed now. And as you can see, there's definitely some growing quite well here. These ones on this section have only been in 2 years. So we're meant to leave these in, allow them to grow and to build up their crowns, which is like their underground growing system. So that really disappointed me because this one just looked really, really good. It was really tempting, but I'm being strict with ourselves and we're not going to pick them. However, some of the ones on here, I think I am going to cut a few. You can actually see something is having a good nibble of our plants. And I don't think it's any pest other than, here, look at this. I think this is one of the local cats who's had a good go at nibbling at quite a few of our onion plants as well. In some of the earlier videos from this season, we put up this climbing frame, and I put a few sweet pea seedlings in at the bottom. So they're going to grow up over this side and will look really nice. And on this side, I am going to grow some gourds, which I was really kindly sent from Mothin from my family garden. If you don't follow his channel, then please have a look. It's an absolutely brilliant channel full of brilliant advice. So this frame is going to look quite different really in a couple of months' time. On the back of this bed, we do have some onions growing and they're looking quite good. And behind us, more potatoes, and these ones have got a support in. So I'm over to our onion bed, and some of these are some of the giant onion plants. And as you can see, unfortunately, something's been having a really good nibble on this. And looking by the quality of these roots, I do not think this is onion fly. And we haven't had a problem with onion fly on this ground as far as I know, really. So I do think this is one of the cats having a good nibble on these plants. And the ones towards Anthony there are particularly bad. So I think I'm going to put something over these just to try and deter the cat from doing that and see what effect that has. If it's got the onion fly on it, it's not going to make any difference. They're still going to die down anyway. So I'll do that. And I do have a few spare. I probably got about 10 spare onion plants that are still in the greenhouse. So if these don't start to recover over the next week, I'll probably transplant those out in the spaces where we've got the sort of duff looking onions. Behind us on the rest of the plot, to be honest, there's not that much in. We spent quite a bit of time this month putting up these frames, which are for a lot of the beans and peas that we grow on our plots. Other than that, behind us we've got parsley, which is making a good attempt. Last attempt, it's starting to go to seed. I do need to pick a load of this really, and I want to dry a lot of the parsley. There's also quite a lot of parsley in the polytunnel as well. So I want to dry a lot of this, maybe make a few items and put them in the freezer, because it will start to go to seed probably quite quickly now as the weather is warming up. We have a little bit more garlic over here. This was actually planted about 6 weeks after the garlic that's over there, and you know what, it's pretty much caught up. And on the back here, this is giant garlic, and that's looking really healthy as well. The last thing we've got on this plot, and if we look at this from the back, this is our flower border, and that's starting to grow quite well now. In last month there were loads and loads of bulbs on this. It was full of daffodils and the odd tulip. As you can see now, a lot of these have started to die down, but the perennial flowers are starting to come up. So hopefully this will look really nice towards the end of the spring and into summer as well. If you were observing as Anthony was trying to manoeuvre around to the front of the flower border, you might see we've actually got a few more potatoes here. These are Charlotte and these are our early potatoes. Unfortunately, as you can see, if you see that hole there, the squirrels are absolutely loving digging in these pots. So I think I do need to put something over the top of them. Perhaps we'll look at that tomorrow morning really, because it's quite infuriating. They seem to love everything that we put in pots, the squirrels, on our ground anyway. Let's move over to plot 2B, which is where we've got our polytunnel fruit cage and lots of fruit trees. We're now at the back of 2B, and this is something that we've actually not shown for quite a while. Behind us is not actually our plot, so behind Anthony is our plot. This is actually a half plot, but this is where we have our main compost heaps. And as you can see that we've got a good compost heap stacked here. If I feel on top of here, you know what, it is actually really quite warm in there. So if we put a thermometer in there, I'm sure we might be reading at least 40 degrees, maybe even more in the center of that. So it's good that that is active. Let's move on to the fruit cage, and this is one thing I'm actually really pleased with this year. I think it looks really pretty, and the whole of the fruit cage is full of flowers. I think it's going to be a brilliant year for fruit here for us in Manchester. So we're at the entrance of the fruit cage here. And as we come in, Anthony follows me in, we've got a lot of blueberry plants that are grown in these large containers. This is because they need the ericaceous or acid compost. And when we've had them in the ground, they're also really water-loving plants. And when we're in the ground surrounded by other things, I don't think I particularly water them enough, but in these really large containers, they've done really well for us. And as you can see, they're full of these really lovely white little flowers. And you can see if we look through our blueberry plants, that this one is coming into flower a little bit later. There are probably thousands of flowers on our blueberries. We have 4 large containers of blueberries here, and there is also another blueberry that is behind me at the back of the cage. Looking in here, you can see that also other fruit again is flowering really well. So this is actually a black currant that we were given by a fellow plot holder, and you can see that that's full of these lovely sort of pinkish flowers, and again there's loads and loads of those. This one here again is just another black currant, same as this one. And in here we have got a plum tree that we have tried to espalier out, and over time, this is quite a new plant, we will try and espalier this over this area, so it's not right against the netting, but it's using that space as well as we can. The strawberries in hanging baskets, which are a bit of a new thing for us for this year, I just thought they'd look nice really in this cage. I did start these off in the polytunnel, so they've had a bit of a head start, but we've got normal types of strawberries here, and these ones are alpine strawberries. In fact, you can see there is one little berry that's starting to go red already. There's another little strawberry bed there, which again is looking good. It's the crowns are obviously growing well. And behind me we've got a Victoria plum. This has definitely set fruit. If we come in close, you'll see where the flowers are, and the little fruitlets are just starting to grow. And these are all over if we have a look there as well. This was really pleasing because for two reasons actually. That around this time there was another really bad frost, and last year the same thing happened, and we ended up with literally, I think it was 0, there might have been 2 or something, but it was hardly any Victoria plums. And this year I thought the same thing was going to happen, but looking at this, there's a lot of fruit that has set, so that is a really good sign for us. In this middle area here, these are all blackcurrant plants, and again they're looking pretty good as well. Behind them we've got a mixture of gooseberries and red currants, and again it's like flowers galore in here. It's absolutely brilliant. You can see here where the gooseberries are starting to form. And also there's even some bigger ones here, look there, that are forming. And then where Anthony is looking, those ones are red currants. And again, these have already flowered and have started to set some berries. So overall, it's probably one of the things that I'm most pleased with on the allotment, this fruit cage. I think it looks really tidy, it looks really neat, it's really low maintenance since we put the slabs down. We've mulched over all the beds, so it should really be a case of us, you know, enjoying our crops really in the summer and then just doing a lot of pruning in the winter. The rest of the plots on 2B is still really mainly, except from the polytunnel, is mainly fruit. And so this area is our fruit trees, and you know what, they're looking really good too. This is a pear, it's a heritage type of pear that we got from a fellow plot holder who does a lot of fruit grafting, and they've set really nicely as well. You can see the mini pears that are forming here. We've got a couple of apple trees behind us. This nice small one, and in here again a slightly larger one, but still a reasonably small tree. Because of the success we had with fruit grafting last year, and we will link some videos about that as well in the comments, we're going to have a go this year, this winter, at grafting onto some of these trees, which is why I've been trying to grow particularly this one into sort of 2 sections. So the idea is we're going to have sort of one set of apples here and then one set of apples here. This one will probably go for a bit of a multi-grafting approach again, like we have on the other tree, which when we get over to plot 5B, we can have a look at the progress on that. Other than that, we have a lovely cherry tree here. I say a lovely cherry tree in the fact that it's so beautiful and smells lovely when it's blossoming, but every year, I don't think there's been a year we've had more than 10 cherries off this, because the birds come in and they absolutely devour every single one. Obviously, because it's quite a big tree up to there, even though I've cut it back, it would be really difficult for us to cover this, and it wouldn't really be that great for the wildlife. So at the moment, I'm really happy to share. However, I have thought about cutting this tree down and growing off some of these areas here into longer branches as they grow, and cordoning this round the water collection unit here, because that would mean then we'd get a lot more protection from the birds just taking the entire crop, and we could leave a few of these actual the natural cherries that are on there as well. So looking at this, it's set really well, so in theory we should have loads of cherries on this tree. So who knows, maybe we'll beat our record of about 10 cherries this year. The fig tree is looking good as ever. We hacked this back quite a lot over the last couple of years because it was just getting insane. If you are thinking about growing fig trees, this is a brown turkey fig, and it grows really, really well for us. It's really productive, and we're in the north of England here, so this is not a warm area. The tips that I would give is, one, make sure you get the right variety. So this one was brown turkey. And two, when you do plant it into the ground, try and restrict those roots a little bit. I know you can't see it underneath here, but this under the ground there is a cube completely full of paving slabs. And even then, if you look at the size of this tree, they are absolute beasts. So if you're thinking about a plum tree, it's going to take over your allotment if you put it on there. So just consider how that's going to fit into the space that you've got. Fig trees as well actually grow quite well, really well actually, in containers, and this was a cutting that we took off this tree probably at least, I think it may be about 6 years ago. It's quite a while ago, and as you can see here that it is got some little fruitlets on. I haven't been too great at pruning these, so you can see it's got a big long shape here and then lots of stuff on the outside. However, in theory, as that starts to grow, it's going to mean that it's got a nice open centre, which is really good for the health of the tree, and it prevents things like fungal growth happening on the fruits. So that one looks really nice as well. The other stuff that we've got on this plot is really just a little bit of rhubarb, which again is only been in, this is the second year that it's been in, so again it's really just establishing itself. And then behind us in those large pots, and a little bit that no matter how much you try to dig it out, it's really impossible to get out, that is a plant called Comfrey. And Comfrey is a brilliant plant. Not only is it great for pollinators, they love the flowers, it's also really good to either add to your compost or to make liquid feeds, and we do that ourselves to get basically free sources of plant food on the plot. So I did try to dig as much of it out as I physically could and grow it in these plants because it does take over, but I obviously missed some, and I'm going to leave that patch there because I thought, you know what, if it goes around that tree, does it really matter? Probably not. And so we just got a bit more Comfrey, I guess. Let's have a look at the polytunnel. Now, there isn't a huge amount going on in this polytunnel yet, but there are a few exciting projects. Here, this is, you know, I was telling you about the parsley a little bit earlier on, but look, it's absolutely insane. This is actually Gigante Parsley. It's a variety that grows a large parsley, and this is also a variety that grows large spinach as well. But as you can see, these plants are starting to go to seed a little bit. So we do need to get these out. Again, I'm going to make something with them, dry or something like that. And again, with the spinach, I'll probably cook that into something and freeze it. We do have the apricot tree, which is growing really nicely now, so it's still alive. And then at the bottom here, we've got some of the giant onions that I put in pots just as an experiment to see if they do actually get bigger, if we can nurture them a little bit in this quite controlled environment in the tunnel. And on the front here, these are our giant cabbages. We will only plant out one of these because when we say they're big plants, they really are big plants, and it's going to take up a full bed, probably a 6x3 bed. So we will find some new homes for those as well. We've got some hanging baskets. They're on the floor here because we've been watering them. These are to go on the pergola and on the frame where we've got the autumn raspberries on plot 4. Then other than that, we have got a few little tomato plants. These ones are looking a little bit sad actually. These are hanging basket miniature tomatoes. So we've got a couple of varieties here. We've got one here and then we've got one here. So this one looks a bit better. To be honest, it's probably going to be I don't know if it'll be too many plants even for these baskets. This one's called Micro Tom, and this one is called Mascotza. Have a look at that if you can read my writing. These were, when I asked on our Facebook the Facebook group for our page, and a couple of people suggested these, quite a lot of people suggested these two varieties. So we're having a go at these just to see if we can get some nice tomatoes in this polytunnel. I have decided for this year not to plant any tomatoes in this tunnel because every year we get blight on the ground. Obviously we are watering predominantly with rainwater, so it's going to be an issue. Whereas we actually grow the majority of our tomatoes at home because we have a greenhouse there and we can use tap water from a hose to be able to water them at home. As you can see, it's not too hot in the tunnel at the moment because it's quite overcast, but it can get, even at this time of year, above 30 degrees in here. The last thing I want to show you is these radishes, and as you can see, they're starting to fill out here as well. So we are growing these radishes in these container wise trays. So these are 2-inch square equivalent side of a 2-inch pot really. And the idea of this is that the radishes sometimes get a bit attacked by flea beetle, which is another pest for us on the plot. So we're going to see how well these grow like this. Needs a little bit of water, it's looking a bit sad there, so we'll do that before we go home today. We'll just move on to our final plot now, which is 5B, and this is where we've got quite a number of other vegetable beds, but also the greenhouse, and that's where it's all happening at the moment. There's lots of crops in there that are growing in preparation to go out in mid-May. We're now over on 5B, and there's not an amazing amount going on here yet. There is a bit of fruit at this end of the plot, and that's looking good. So we've got a new strawberry bed that we put in. This strawberry bed was only put in 2 years ago anyway, but unfortunately I must have missed a bit of creeping buttercup and it had completely taken over this bed. So we decided to cut our losses to get that all cleared out, and although we are no dig, we did dig this quite religiously, to be honest, to get that creeping buttercup out, and then we have re-put this strawberry bed back in. We do have quite a few herbs that are just starting to spring to life. There are cuttings of various types, hardwood cuttings of various types of fruit here. And then we have another really productive pear tree. This one is a Comfrey variety. And as you can see, that is absolutely covered in these tiny little fruitlets. So hopefully that will be a good yield as well. This is the tree that I was mentioning earlier. This is our multi-grafted apple tree. So when we took this plot on, this will be the 3rd season for us on plot 5B. There was 3 trees actually on this section. There was the Comfrey pear tree, which we knew was really productive and a great tree. Then there was this tree, and there was a tree where the strawberry bed was. And both of these were sort of cooking varieties of apples. But firstly, we've got that huge Bramley apple tree anyway on plot 4. So we really don't need, in most seasons, any more cooking apples. And to be honest, they didn't taste very good. I don't know what the variety was. So we decided that we were going to graft onto this tree. And as you can see, there's a graft there. So this is one type of apple. There's a graft here. This will be a separate type of apple. And there are actually 5 different types of apple grafted onto this tree. And we did this last winter. So hopefully we might do okay with getting, there are definitely some flowers here on this one, certainly. So it's looking really healthy, and it's actually looking a really nice shape. So you can see how we're going to get sort of the bunches of different fruit, and that's something that's really exciting for me. It's something that, although we've been growing our own fruit and vegetables for many years now, we've never really tried much fruit grafting. And to be honest, I thought it was something that was going to be really difficult, so I was avoiding doing it. I think that's like a specialist task for people that are like professional gardeners, and we're not professional gardeners. But you know what? It was really easy, and I don't know why we've not done it before. So we will be developing that a little bit more with the apple trees that we have over on plot 2B, as I mentioned earlier. If I have a quick look at the rest of the plot, it's not an amazing amount. There's a few more onions in. There's some shallots and overwintering onions. And just to the left, we have interplanted some lettuce between those onions, and they're doing quite well. And other than that, we've really got a load of wigwams again that are for the vast array actually of climbing beans that we tend to grow for drying. And I will show you actually one thing if Anthony follows me over. We decided to sow a load of early sort of salad herby crops, and we sowed them in at the new Charles Dowding cells that the trays that we bought. And they grow so quickly in there because they're tiny cells within the trays, that we had to get these out. So these actually went out really early, but we do have more radish, parsley and coriander, spinach and spring onions, and right on the end here we have some beetroots, and these beetroots are really for leaves for salad. So this is a salad bed for us, and you know what, that's looking pretty good. I'm actually quite pleased with that. I put them very, very close together, probably much closer than they should be together, but the idea is that we will pull some of these plants out and allow some of them just to grow on for the rest of the year. Just before we see the greenhouse, we do have one thing here which is now going to seed, and this is the purple sprouting broccoli. So tomorrow what we'll probably do is we're going to uncover this, because these beautiful little yellow flowers, the bees absolutely love these. So we've let it go to seed now, we've had enough, and we'll let the bees have their share. So let's have a look at the greenhouse. Like I said, this is where all the action is. And this is our greenhouse. So as you can see, it's quite a lot going on here now. The last frost for us in South Manchester is usually about the 2nd, maybe the 3rd week of April most years. So a lot of this stuff can't go out until after then. If we start at this end, we have got, these are different types of basil. We've got here, this one's coriander I think, and there's some parsley here that's just starting to come through here. We've got lots of beans. Like I mentioned, we grow a lot of beans for drying. In fact, we put a video on, I think it was last week we put it out, about all the different beans that we grow for drying, and that might be something that you, if you're interested in finding out about that, that's a specific video that you could look at. So a lot of these all around here are basically bean crops. There's a few sweet peas. I've left these in just because if those ones that I put out decide to die off, I've got something to replace them with. Over on this side, we've got lots of brassicas that are looking quite good, really. So there's all different ones here: cauliflowers, calabrese, kohlrabi, different types of cabbages. We've got a few flowers. These are cosmos, which I really like, really easy to grow and give you a brilliant summer display. And then behind of me here, lots more beans, as you can see down here. These are all starting to spout through. We only actually planted these last weekend, so we're on Thursday now, and as you can see, a lot of them are through already. We've got some sunflowers, again they shot through really quickly. And then below here is, in the main, it's more beans, and some of these are squash, pumpkins and courgettes, and again they were only sown very recently as well. The rest of the stuff that we've got here, these are more some dwarf cosmos, more flowers. These are French marigolds. These are a few trailing fuchsias that we'll put in some of the pots that we've got. A few more cosmos here, and a few more different flowers. And then we've got different types of beetroot that have been multi-sown in these Charles Dowding trays. Underneath at the bottom, there are some peas. Lots of peas here, and then a few more different types of sunflowers. Those ones are dwarf sunflowers. There's a couple of things that we've got in here that are new for us growing this year. We've got this one here, which looks quite like a sunflower actually, but this is called Malabar Spinach. So this is a crop that is very similar to a normal green spinach, but it's a vine, a climbing vine. We're going to plant some of that in the polytunnel and see how that does for us. Over here we have got sweet corn, which has been sown but not germinated yet. This is Brussels. They really need potting up. As you can see, they're getting a bit desperate. That's when these plants start to go like this, it's because they're needing some more feed. So they're obviously running out of enough nutrients in these small pots. So these need to be potted up pretty quickly. These ones are Livingston Daisy, which is a really pretty type of flower. I've sown them really late, but you know what? I'm just going to see what happens. They're just so expensive to buy lots and lots of flowers, really. So we're trying to be as self-sufficient as we can be. The last thing that we've been working on, and we've actually been doing a lot of this today, is the lid for the cold frames. So these cold frames have been a bit of an ongoing project really. So we built these completely recycled. So they're made out of oak doors that were found in a skip on one of the roads that just surround the allotment. So the back section is one door, the front section is half a door, and that's how we had, so we had 3 doors. That's what's made the actual structure. We have then cladded the inside with bits from some old sheds that came down, and the outside with the planks that come from taking apart fences. And then on the top, and we've had for quite a while, the last couple of years, we've had this sort of netting cover on it. So that's really good for things like hardening off your brassica plants, because brassica plants just get absolutely devastated by cabbage white butterflies. So once they go out of your greenhouse, then if you, well, from my experience, I find that they will just absolutely be attacked by caterpillars straight away. By having these netting structures, it gives us that protection from that. So that's what we've really been using them for. But we have today been building some extra lids, which currently are just over here, that are going to go on the top of here. They're over here because we just need to put them in the greenhouse at the moment, because we need to put some extra cross bracing on these to make sure that they're really sturdy. But these lids will slot on top of the cold frames, so they will keep the netting underneath and then have this extra polythene lid on, so they will act more like a traditional cold frame that will heat up and allow us to keep plants, for example, over winter as well. But because we've got the 2 layers on it, we can take that layer off as it's getting too hot, and we've still got the protection of that netting if we put the things like the brassicas in there. So if you've enjoyed the video today, please like, comment and subscribe. It only takes a minute, but it really helps our channel. Bye everyone.